All right. So I'm I'm a little amused that the way that these sequences keep going for these lives. Oh, I really zoomed in on my face somehow. It didn't show as quite as zoomed in when I was setting this up. Okay, so I'm back in my usual space, back in my room, and I finally finished my quarantine after my trip to Mexico. Um, I'm amused at, so I actually almost forgot to follow through on this. So I was about to head to bed, and yeah, it seems like keeping up with this is valuable to me. So I'm showing up here a little. My mind's a little worn out from the day, so a little extra spacey. When arriving here, the I realize there's something like some missing context that seems like it's valuable to give. But there's something really fascinating to me about entering this space and feeling so much familiarity, little things of, oh right, that's how my bed is set up. This is how my chair is. So I've got this stack of books that I can put my laptop on so that the camera is high enough so it doesn't look like I'm looking down on it. Um, all these little details that are, like I put a lot of thought into them, a lot of energy. There's so much gratitude for the way that I was that created this space for me, that shaped it for me the way it is. So it's familiar. It's got a lot of its comforts. And then there are these things that when I walk in, I go, oh, I've actually changed a lot. And there are things now that I can see so much more clearly than I could before. And I don't quite fit in this space the same way. It's pretty good. There's going to be some things to change. And there's kind of an excitement to that. There's a positivity to it. So, like as an example, I've got over here, got some affirmations that I've tacked to the wall, and I don't know how visible those are, but like so. There's one. This really struck me as like a really vivid example of oh something has shifted for me. I've given some context earlier in this series. Like for instance, approximately speaking, giving up on growth, which has been amazing for my growth. But up there, one of the affirmations I've written says, I remove the dagger, I choose a different way forward. So what I'm talking about there is there is an experience. It's actually like right in the solar plexus, right below the rib cage, in the pit of the stomach, where when I would say things to myself like, "Oh, I really need to make sure I send out that email," there'd be this, "Ow!" like I was taking a dagger and jabbing it into my solar plexus. Ow! Oh, oh, am I a good person? Ow! Oh, I really shouldn't have said that. Ow! Oh, right, I'm important. Ow! There's a kind of pain that I would notice, like I was jabbing myself. And I noticed, I don't know, like 2 months ago, that I got a lot of clarity and space by really paying close attention to when that sensation appears and then just prioritizing never hurting myself that way. So I put that up on the wall to remind myself, yeah, this is a choice I've made. This is a direction I want to go, and I want to go in a direction where I'm not hurting myself. It's really funny to say and feel it that way now. And then there's a bunch of these other affirmations. The middle one says, I let go, as I let go, and let go is underlined. I let go of needing anyone to do anything. That was an older one. it was very important. I was giving my word. I'm not going to do that anymore. To the best of my ability, I'm going to let go of that. The problem is that that's full of the dagger jabs. No, there's a good spirit behind that. There's something about I've had a pretty strong drift towards so in Karpman's triangle, in the victim triangle, I've had some pretty strong tendency towards the rescuer corner. So getting a lot of validation out of like noticing, oh, you could use my help. I'm going to help you. I'm going to fix this situation so that you do better. Oh, you poor thing. Let me see if I can solve your problem for you. A lot of that kind of tendency. If you're not familiar with Karpman's triangle, you might listen to that and go, well, I mean, what's the problem with that? I'll let you look that up if you want to. It's sometimes called the victim triangle. But the short version is that because I was getting my validation, because there was a part of me that was getting validation through rescuing, it meant that I needed people to have problems. And this would also create a cycle of creating some sense of suppressing my own needs, and then creating a kind of resentment because my needs weren't being met. I'm effectively doing it all to myself. I'm surrounding myself with, like when I'm in that pattern, I'm surrounding myself with people who do that, who feed into that pattern. And so, of course, my needs aren't being met, and I'm getting my energy drained. And but I'm doing it. I'm creating the environment. So, relatedly, I long had this thing about, like, I want to address aging, but I can't be the one to address aging. I don't have enough skills or resources on my own to do that. I need other people to help me deal with that. So I need them to change their behavior. And so insisting that other people change their behavior so that I can have the world that I want, it puts me in a position of having to manipulate others. It doesn't put out a good kind of feeling. I wasn't thinking of it in these ways at the time, but it doesn't put out a good kind of feeling. So letting go of needing anyone to do anything, putting the focus entirely on myself, it's actually a continuation. Sorry, it's an older version of the same thing that had me wanting to do this series in the first place, really drilling in this aspect of me being clear about being present with my own process and being honest about that, with myself primarily, but also with others when I'm sharing what I have to offer. Not confusing. Well, anyway, I've talked about this before, so I won't go into it more. But having that, I let go of needing anyone to do anything. Ow. And a couple of the affirmations are like that. Right? So seeing this on the wall and just noticing, oh, this doesn't make sense. Like I see and feel the purpose behind them. But also, like, that doesn't make sense. And also, the way those affirmations are up there is kind of ugly. I don't like the aesthetic. There's that kind of sense when I'm looking around, and it's like I have a more refined aesthetic sense. I feel moved to share a little bit about why. I'll go into that in a moment. But there's this sense of, you know what would be lovely? You know, like this makeshift desk is very makeshift. And yeah, I can do better. I see how to do better. And this chair, like I'm using one of these, one of these metal fold-out chairs because it's easy to move, which lets me use the space in my room for a lot of physical movement stuff. That's great, and that's important. That's actually very valuable for my own processes. It feels really good to have this space to do things like yoga and qigong. But the chair is kind of bleh in terms of aesthetics. It's very uncomfortable. I've actually taken a zabuton. That's one of those square pads that meditation people sometimes put for under their knees, and I have it folded in half under me because the chair's seat has become too flattened and it hurts to sit on if I don't have the extra padding. And I can't lean back. If I lean back, I'm arcing my head in kind of a weird way, and it doesn't feel comfortable, and I can't see the screen. So there was a tone that I had before in approaching all this that was like, oh, let me list these problems, and this is an issue. And I would feel some sense of guilt in the background, like I need to change these things. I'm supposed to change them. If I don't change them, something bad. And now it just feels like, oh, yeah, there's a lot to be grateful for in this space. And I want it to be better in these ways. I think I'll take down those affirmations. Then that space on the wall will be kind of blank. I have a bit of an altar in the corner, and some of the pieces just don't make sense to me anymore. And I need a better chair. Right? These seem so silly, they seem so small if I examine it with my mind, but it's not the mind that's noticing that these matter, that they're important, that it's beautiful to care for myself this way. And it feels so different. It's such a big contrast. Something of, I remember who I was when I left this room 4 weeks ago to go to Mexico. A lot of seriousness. I'm going to Mexico in order to do this deep work. And like the seriousness is still there. I still have the intensity and I still have the drive. It's just that it's not pumped through a shame engine anymore. Occasionally it is, but it's uninteresting. Like it gets pumped through the shame engine and I go, wait, that doesn't make sense. Thank you for showing me. Like, thank you for showing me habit system, how you're set up. Because now I can be more free of all that aspect of shame. So coming in here and noticing things like on this little strip here between the, see if I can angle this for the camera. So the closet and the door, there's this strip. Angle the arms wrong. This, the gray thing. Can't get the angle quite right. So I actually had something hanging up here. And I kind of liked how that looked. But what was hanging was one of those koshi bells, like little got a little bell type thing that makes some pleasant music when it's moved around. And I normally have it attached to the door. You might be able to see it back here. I have it against some, that has a word, scarves. Against some scarves so it doesn't bang against the door as the door opens. But it creates a lovely sound every time I go through. I really like that. And it's wonderful to hang that back up there again. And then I notice this blankness and I go, something belongs there. I don't know what yet. Before I would have worried about it. Now I'm not worried. I'm just looking at it going, oh, something belongs there. I care about that. I'm holding the care. It's not about logic. It's about I can feel that. I can feel that it matters. So to a large extent, I described what the shift was a few days ago. Most of what I'm caring about is, when I was starting this video, I had this thought, something like, there's something I'm experiencing about this process of integrating my new way of being into my old context. I had a bunch of conversations with my parents. I really love my parents. I get along with them very well. So I spent the afternoon chatting with them, just catching up and feeling with each other again, sharing ideas. And I kept noticing all the energy going into my head. I could worry about that. Oh no, the energy's going into my head. Am I losing track of it? It's like, no, I'm not. I'm not. It's okay. There's something so precious and important. It's like, no, really important. Like it's not serious. It's just, it matters. It matters. The same kind of way that it matters to make this space more aesthetically pleasing for me. It matters to integrate what I've learned into the contexts where I want to apply it. There's some kind of art to that. I've been experiencing that art as I step back into my normal life. Spending 2 weeks in Mexico, and then 2 weeks in an Airbnb in my hometown, but in an area that I've never been in my hometown. Kind of interacting with my family, but not nearly as much as I usually do. And now I'm back in my usual context. And that layered process where I started out, for all practical purposes, meeting God in a foreign country that felt like a foreign reality when that was happening. Just stepping outside of space and time repeatedly and recognizing what my mind and my emotions do with that. Getting to really experience that. And then coming back and having my own space, for quarantine reasons, but having my own space where I can land and start to feel into what it's like to dip my toes into the normal world after having been in touch with something super normal, beyond the normal, or hyper normal, like extremely normal, as normal as it can get. And then having that to watch, oh, how do I hold this frequency? How do I hold this new way of being? How deeply does it land in this world? And now? Oh, well, yeah, I can fully land here, but here changes when I do. It's like an angel touches their feet on the ground. The ground is not the same. There's that kind of feeling to it. There's this rev of the thought, oh no, is your audience going to worry about, what, are you claiming to be an angel? Blah, blah, blah. Are you, like, I don't care. I actually don't care. I don't like the pain that those thoughts create, but they are my thoughts. There's this urge to me of, can I teach this? But I'm learning it. I think the best I can do is show what I'm working with. When I was in Mexico, I went through a series of ceremonies. No, I'm not asking you to do anything. Yes, I have an overzealous phone. So I went through a series of 10 ceremonies that were immensely potent, very well held, and very challenging for me. When I came out of one of them, I entered something like a very meditative state. I looked around and I noticed I am not connecting with people by default. I'm mostly sharing ideas. And it's not that simple. Like, I'm not disconnected. It's not totally there, but I'm not prioritizing the heart connection. And that's a mistake. That's a mistake. I think I've mentioned this before. One of my favorite songs is How Did You Love by Shinedown. No one gets out alive. Every day is do or die. The one thing you leave behind is how did you love? How did you love? It's not what you believe. Those prayers will make you bleed. While you're down on your knees, ask how did you love? How did you love? It's something of how I could see why that was important. And a part of me resonated and resonates. And a part of me resonated a lot with the sentiment of that song, but I took it as something of a guilt, like, I'm messing up. Letting go of that and just looking at it and going, like, to myself, loving is a skill. And it's one I need to get better at. It's important that I get better at it. And it's not getting really better at it to look at myself and go, God, I suck at this. I've messed up so much. Why did I waste so much of my time? I mean, of course, I didn't totally waste my time. I did kind of okay with it. That's not kind to me. That's not loving. So, oh, my mind is tracking why I was saying that, and it dropped it. Um, I'm kind of a rambling mess, I guess. That'll be me today. There's something I'm finding beautifully importantly beautiful, about as I re-enter the world, as I show up in the world here, like almost a week into doing 100 days of visibility here. There's a very grounded sense of, am I loving this? Not just being me. I mentioned that a few days ago, like loving being me, loving this, like this form. Here I am doing all these mistakes and I'm messing up in these fascinating ways and have this brilliant mind that's so wonderful to watch do its magic, and like feeling these energies and then becoming obsessed with my skill, and then it collapses and I get in the way again and then I feel awful. It's so marvelous. It is so marvelous. It's wonderful to be alive. It's wonderful to experience this. But there's something so simple as like this is a plug that I was using for my charger for my computer. Um, it's like the experience of this. Like this is all these really neat design elements. And there's a bit of horror that's associated with it having, like, it's made of plastic. Like the kind of industry that creates that is going to be like it's not supportive of a cyclic of a circle economy, a cyclic economy, so it's very unsustainable. Is it made in China? Did it actually make sense for this to come all the way from China? And it works so well. I just plug it in and it clicks, and then that's just something I really like about doop, and that flattens. It's totally silly, but I enjoy it. Right? And just all of those experiences, like all sides of it, the good and the bad. Like, can I love it all? Can I get better at loving it all? And the answer is clearly yes. Absolutely clearly yes. That loving changes it, changes all of this. It makes the energy flow. What does that mean? I don't know. I notice this urge to say something along the lines of, well, it's bringing me an income. And that's true. But that's a backwards way of saying it. I don't want to, like, the energy moving isn't useful for something. What is loving useful for? I recognize that I don't have a this may be coming across as kind of an incoherent confusion. To me, it is a vivid clarity. It's a clarity of the heart, a clarity of the body. Oh, hey, Rupert, can you love everything about how the world is? I probably can't. I'm not that good at it yet. I think it's possible. I want to distinguish, like the word love does something funny when it goes through the mind. When I say mind, I'm usually meaning mostly the conscious-ish machine, like the calculational thing, the thing that's going, wait, let me give you, like, what are those definitions, and how do we articulate that precisely, and what exactly is the model that we're using, and like that thing, the cognition thing, right? I find that love absolutely makes sense at an energetic level. This, I think, very loose definition of energy. Like it makes enormous sense at a very somatic level. There's not a lot of confusion. There's an enormous amount of texture and detail and nuance and different flavors to it, but it's not baffling. But my experience has been that when I pump it through my mind, it's very easy to get confused because I love my girlfriend. And I love the experience of being in this room and noticing the things that don't fit me anymore. Those two kinds of love are related, but I'm never going to confuse them. So what does it mean to love a situation where humanity might fling itself into extinction? I think that when this goes through the mind, like when I try to imagine, well, where would I feel resistance to that? And where do I sometimes feel resistance to it? It comes in the fashion of, wait, but if I love it, if I accept it, does that mean that I encourage it? Does that mean I support it? Does that mean I ignore the ability to take action about it? And then I want to find some way that the correct answer is no, or to decide that loving this is the wrong thing to do, and there's some kind of weird thing going on there. But like if I don't worry so much about the intellectual analysis of what all of that is, and I just look at, okay, I'm here right now. What do I want this moment to be? What's real? what's here? Not currently dealing with a whole lot having to do with the survival of the human race. Interacting with it a little bit because I'm breathing. And so there's something of an open-hearted yes to the fact that I'm experiencing this. And that's not the same thing as talking about preferences. It's not the same thing as preferring what is. But it is noticing that it's here and accepting that. At this point, I find the language gets a little bit tricky. But there's I sort of don't want to worry about the language. I do, I don't. I feel conflict about it. I think if I were more energized, I would be more excited about trying to articulate that part clearly. But there's something about like right now, I feel this kind of tiredness in my head from it being quite late for me. Looking forward to heading to bed in a moment. I'm looking forward to heading to bed because it changes something. And I like the change. And I imagine that, like, oh yeah, yum, yum, yes, that. What orientation to that whole picture creates expansiveness for me and creates openness? It's not by focusing on, I need to get to sleep and this is tricky and I want to convey this though, but well, I notice that I cringe when I do that. That doesn't seem pleasant, so why not skip that? There's a way where asking that question, if I ask my mind, well, why not skip that? It goes, well, the reason to not skip it is because you need to like actually solve a problem, and like there's a situation here where there's a need to articulate, and what about the need for rest? And it's like, well, but in some sense, it's like, I'm not asking you, mind. I'm not. Like, that's not for you. If that was a rhetorical question. So. Yeah, so some associated thoughts and an attempt to embody and convey some of the energy of this. But in terms of can you love everything about how the world is? I think in principle, yes. And that it's important to do that from the heart rather than the head. And that doesn't mean the same thing as just giving a thumbs up to the current condition of the world. One of the things, I guess one way to say it is that loving everything includes loving your own reactivity. So this is me doing the projection thing again. Me loving everything seems to include me loving my own reactivity, my own inner demands that things be different. And then a magical thing happens. There's some sort of I can hold my demand and my desire that fuels the demand up to the reality as it is, and instead of them opposing each other, they sort of sync up. And things change. Things become more open. Things tend to work, especially with people. I'm noticing my my mind is starting to give up the ghost, so to speak. So I'm going to wrap up here. My intuitions as a teacher suggest that this whole arc did not make sense. I don't know if that's true. I'm still learning how to calibrate when I'm coming from a different kind of place. So Well, what was that for? What was it for? Mm. I'm wanting to be seen as attentive to how I'm coming across. Yeah, I don't want to focus on that. I don't want to focus on um, I don't want to let me get in the way of what's coming through me. So let me set all of that aside. If you've gotten this far, thanks for watching. And I hope I can remember and schedule things so that I can do this a little earlier in the day when I'm more energized. So more tomorrow.